Tonight on KREM 2 News at 4, investigators are still looking for the person responsible for the death of an elderly man in Deer Park. Tonight, we're in North Spokane County hearing what neighbors have to say.
Say goodbye to the 40s. We're talking cooler temps and the return of widespread snow.
And court documents reveal new information in the Medical Lake shooting last Friday that left one man dead. Tonight, the latest on the investigation.
KREM 2 News at 4 begins now with Whitney Ward and Jeremy Legoo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward. We do begin tonight with new information after a man was found dead in a home in Deer Park last Monday. Tonight, that victim has been identified as 83-year-old Richard Purdy, and sheriff's deputies are still looking for the person responsible. Right now, you're looking at video from the scene of the crime. This was last Friday night. Right now, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is reminding the public to stay vigilant, as they have not yet named a suspect or a person of interest. However, we do know they are looking for a man who may have been with a medium or large dog at the time, holding a briefcase or some kind of bag, possibly driving a dark-colored SUV. Deputies say witnesses saw that man in the area, and he may have information about this homicide. Tonight, KREM 2's Nathan Hyun went to Deer Park and has more.
We learned today that the man who lived here was 83-year-old Richard Purdy. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office said that investigators found Purdy dead in his home on Monday night, and there were signs of a burglary. And the Spokane Medical Examiner reported that Purdy died from sharp and blunt force injuries. His death is currently being investigated as a homicide.
I had talked to Dick Purdy for 15 years. I've lived here since 2007. He had lived here prior, so he knows all the neighbors and everything about the neighborhood. So I was real surprised that something like this would happen in this neighborhood.
And coming up at 5, I'll have more on this investigation. In Deer Park, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
And in other top stories tonight, Spokane Valley detectives are investigating a shooting at an apartment complex on North Cherry in Spokane Valley. Deputies have arrested a suspect, and the victim was taken to the hospital for potentially life-threatening injuries. The Spokane Valley Police Department says this shooting started as an argument between two men. A caller reported one man was shot a person inside a vehicle in the complex's parking lot. The victim then drove off, but the suspect apparently remained at the location. Deputies then found the victim in the parking lot of the Plants Ferry Park area with a gunshot wound to his upper leg. They also say there is not an ongoing threat right now to the public as a result of this crime. Spokane police are now investigating a drive-by road rage shooting from Christmas Eve. This one happened on I-90 near the Thor Freya exit on Christmas Eve morning. An Uber driver with 4 passengers was driving westbound when another vehicle pulled up next to them and just started shooting. That Uber driver, along with another passenger, were shot and injured. The Uber driver managed to drive all the way up to the hospital despite his car being damaged in the shooting. Both people are now expected to recover from their injuries. Major Crimes, though, now asking anyone with information that could lead to an arrest to please call Crime Check. We have that number there at the bottom of your screen. Well, today we are digging deeper into last Friday's shooting in Medical Lake that left one man dead. Thanks to new court documents, we know more about the moments leading up to that shooting. KREM 2's Cody Proctor breaks down what we know so far.
Spokane County Sheriff deputies responded to reports of a gunshot and screaming at an apartment complex on Washington Street in Medical Lake last Friday at 11 a.m. When they arrived, they found the man in one of the apartments with a gunshot wound. Court documents reveal the victim as Colin Basto. A Spokane County Sheriff's Office says law enforcement tried to stop the bleeding with a tourniquet, but Basto died at the scene. He had gunshot wounds on his left arm and the left side of his torso, according to court documents. Deputies detained 24-year-old Cynthia Metzger and a 16-year-old witness for questioning. Metzger was later arrested. According to court documents, the teenage witness says she saw the victim hit Metzger the day before the shooting. She also allegedly told authorities the shooting followed a rape allegation from Metzger towards the victim. Documents then state the witness saw Metzger grab a gun, and the victim got up and was walking towards the door when he was shot. Court documents also say Metzger claimed she hadn't meant to shoot the victim and was trying to shoot the ceiling instead. Metzger was arrested for second-degree murder and first-degree unlawful possession of a firearm. Her bond is set at $1 million. She made her first court appearance on Tuesday. Her next one is set for January 4th.
All right, let's take a break from the headlines for a moment. Let's switch gears and talk weather. We want to turn to our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legoo, as we talk about all the rain that we have gotten. It's melted a ton of snow, and now I'm curious if there's more snow in the forecast.
Of course, our active weather pattern just isn't going to come to an end. So here we are.
Should have known.
Yeah, but the good news is one thing that does come to an end here shortly are going to be those flood advisories. Those remain in effect for another half hour. It is likely we hang on to those flood warnings, though. That's Paradise Creek down in Moscow and the St. Joe in North Idaho. We're going to still watch those for those rising riverbanks. Those are overflowing in spots, but heavy rain and melting snow no longer going to be a threat as temperatures continue to fall. We're in the mid 30s now, so yes, above freezing, but starting to cool down enough that widespread snow melt is starting to slow down. And as rain transitions to snow, it is likely we're not going to see as much of that snow melt. Right now, most of that snow stays in northeast Washington and North Idaho, still coming down in some of those mountainous areas. I saw Mark Hanrahan was out skiing with the kids today. Not saying I'm jealous, because jealousy doesn't look good on anyone, but man, that had to be pretty cool. All right, snow continues to taper off, and we're basically done with it this evening. And then our next round moves in as we head through the day on Thursday. A bulk of that stays in the Cascades at first. We'll see a little Thursday afternoon round, and then by Friday, our next round moves in, starts as rain, switches over to snow, and we could be talking possible accumulation. We'll walk through it coming up in the full forecast.
All right, sounds good, Jeremy. Thank you very much. And he did just mention those flooding concerns. This is a live look right now, and those flood concerns are still an issue. The wet weather continues all across the inland Northwest, so we know that parts of our region are still under those flood advisories. Take a look right now. You've probably seen a lot of scenes like that wherever you have been. Several Spokane County roads have standing water just because of all that melting snow and all the rain. Road crews are actually getting concerned that the snow buildup in those storm drains is going to make it even harder for the runoff to ever really get where it needs to go. They are continuing to focus on clearing the arterials and the hills as much as possible. But the flooding did actually break a seal on the I-90 bridge over Maple Street. Take a look. It caused water to pour onto the crosswalk down below. WashDOT doesn't have an estimated time for when they'll be able to fix it at this point. They say crews can't make those repairs until the snow berms on the viaduct melt, so it's going to keep leaking apparently until then. Structurally, though, the bridge is okay. We are not the only ones, though, dealing with flooding problems right now. Look at this over on the west side. Several communities with heavy rain that led to flooding as well. Olympia saw a record high king tide that measured almost 18 and a half feet. Des Moines also had some cars that were completely covered by water early yesterday morning. Washington State Patrol says Snohomish County had 29 calls for collisions, disabled vehicles, and water on the roadways. And a big reason for all those calls was drivers not paying attention and ignoring those closed road signs. In South Seattle, one man considered just packing up and moving, he said, after his basement flooded with 2 feet of water.
All of a sudden it just started coming in through the walls, and it went from being like that much water to, that much water just like that.
Wow. So the city of Seattle right now says it is prioritizing the communities that have been hit the hardest, and they are working on adding 2 new pump stations as well.